Sick of just boring old cupcakes? Learn how to make wonderful decorated cupcakes for this holiday season. I'm here today to show you how to turn your old boring cupcakes into something new and fun. Before we get started, let's wash our hands. Go. Before we can dive into making this yummy treat, we need to find out what materials we need. You're going to need 3 types of colored food dye: green, orange, and red. You're also going to need 2 cans of vanilla icing, 1 can of chocolate icing along with an icing knife, a tube of Betty Crocker black icing, or whatever kind of black icing you have lying around at home, some toothpicks, Milano cookies, they come in a package that looks like this, and an Oreo pie crust or any type of Oreo cookie that you're going to crush up and put into a plastic bag, kind of like this one. You will also need candy pumpkins and, of course, cupcakes. Before we actually start making our cupcakes, if you have a piping bag, that's great, and if not, this can work just as well. A plain old Ziploc bag, which I'm going to show you really quickly how to turn into a piping bag that you can use just as effectively as this piping bag. What you're going to do is you're going to need a pair of scissors. You're going to cut the bottom corner. After you've cut the bottom corner of your Ziploc bag off, what you're going to need is a piping tip and the 2 pieces that you use to screw onto the piping tip. You will place the piping tip on top of the larger screw-on piece. Insert it in your bag. It's okay if it seems a little bit big, because once you screw on, you're going to hold this, so these 2 should be through the bag, the piping tip coming out of the hole. You take your smaller one and you screw it on to hold it firmly in place, and you've just made yourself your own piping bag. So this is just as effective as one of these if you need it. And now we can begin making our cupcakes. To begin, we're going to take our pre-dyed orange frosting and place it in the bag. This can be a little messy, so you just want to be careful. And try to get it as far down in the bag as you can so it's not oozing out of the top onto your hand. Now that we have everything we need, let's get started. First, you're going to take an orange and green icing bag, which I have put in the fridge to keep cool. And you're going to take your orange tip, which should be slightly larger than the green one, and you're going to pipe a sort of spiral on your cupcake. I'm going to do down here. Do you want your face in this? No, you can do the cupcake. Creating a spiral-like effect in orange, we have the base of our first cupcake. The next step we're going to do requires us to use our candy pumpkins. You can just take any pumpkin and you can place it wherever you'd like on the cupcake, and that completes the next step. Simple. And finally, what we're going to do is a little tricky, but it's nothing too complicated. You're just going to take the green icing, start it at the top, and spiral it down on the cupcake, creating a vine-like effect on your cupcake. This will give you your pumpkin cupcake. I hope everyone enjoys. But that's not it. What we're going to do is we're also going to create a graveyard cupcake with a ghost and a tombstone. For these cupcakes, what we will be doing is we will be just what is called in baking dirty frosting them, which is just when you put the frosting on the cupcake, nothing special, no piping it on, to create a somewhat bumpy-like texture. So your cupcake should look like that. Then what you're going to be doing is a little bit messy, so just be very careful. You're going to take your Oreo pie crust and you're going to be putting it into a bag like the one we have here. Like I said, this can be a little bit messy. So we're going to try to do this as effectively as possible. And dump it in. Make sure your bag is big enough that you don't have crumbs falling all over the place. And now it is okay if your crust breaks because that's what we want it to do in the first place. Now what you're going to do is make sure you have a tight seal on the top and you're going to mash your crust until it is in tiny pieces. And this will create a dirt-like effect on top of the cupcakes for our graveyard-themed cupcakes. Make sure they're nice and mashed up because you don't want any chunks that are too big. So once it's pretty mashed up, you can see what that looks like. They're pretty much what the remains of the pie crust. You're going to take a small amount. You can use your fingers or a spoon if you'd like. I find that your fingers are a little bit more effective. And you sprinkle them on the cupcake like this, creating what looks like a dirt effect. You can take your white piping bag, which the tip should be a little bit bigger than the orange and green. You're going to pipe on top a little spirally shape with a point, creating your ghost. After that step is complete, the Milano cookies that I told you about before are going to become our tombstones. You can place this wherever you like on the cupcake. Make sure it's firmly secure. You don't want it falling off. So now you have a ghost and a gravestone. But to make these more realistic, what we're going to do is we're going to take our Betty Crocker black icing and we're going to just squeeze a little tiny bit out of the top like so. Put it onto our toothpick that I told you you would need before. And you're just going to create eyes and a mouth. After you've put the face on your ghost, this one doesn't look particularly great, but you're going to take another toothpick and you're going to dip that toothpick in the red icing. This part is kind of detail oriented, and if you don't want to do it, it's completely understandable. You just can write rest in peace with your red frosting or red dye on the cookie. Now you have your finished graveyard and your finished pumpkin cupcakes. I hope that everybody enjoys these the next time that you bake for a celebration for Halloween.